We are facing something that has unsettled seekers of truth and spirit for countless generations: the struggle with desire. And here lies the paradox. The more spiritually awake you become, the more fiercely this battle seems to rage. Why is that? Why does the soul most devoted to God often wrestle most painfully with longing? Let's uncover what's really happening here. But I should warn you, this isn't a gentle or comforting reflection. This is about seeing the full landscape, not just the tidy pieces we show in public. First, understand this. Spiritual awakening doesn't make you less human. It makes you more human. When your consciousness expands, you don't just sense the divine more clearly. You begin to feel everything more vividly. The holy and the earthly, the light and the shadow, the angelic and the animal. Before awakening, it's as if you moved through life half asleep, your senses dulled and your awareness veiled. But when the soul awakens, it's like someone turns the volume of existence all the way up. Suddenly, the birds sing more sharply, food tastes richer, sunlight feels alive on your skin, and yes, desire burns with new intensity. This is the first truth. Spiritual sensitivity heightens all experience. Opening your inner eyes means seeing the entire spectrum of life. The same awareness that feels God's presence also feels the body's hunger. The same mind that perceives divine beauty also recognizes human beauty, raw and radiant. Many old teachers missed this. They assumed enlightenment dulled the senses, but the opposite is true. The awakened heart feels more deeply. Joy and sorrow, peace and restlessness, compassion and passion. Growth in consciousness doesn't mute your humanity. It amplifies it. So when a seeker feels stronger desire than ever before, they often fear they're backsliding, but they're not. They're simply more alive. The question, then, is not how to stop feeling, but how to stay present with what you feel without being ruled by it. Now, let's look at a second truth, one harder to face. Those who wake up spiritually often find themselves alone. Not because they're superior, but because they no longer see the world as others do. Casual chatter feels shallow. Gossip becomes unbearable. The race for wealth, power, and image starts to look like children's games. So they drift from the crowd or the crowd drifts from them. Either way, solitude arrives. And loneliness is its own hunger. When no one understands your thoughts or shares your vision, isolation cuts deep. Lust, then, can appear as a bridge back to connection. Even if it's fleeting, even if it's hollow, for a moment, the ache of separation eases. Two bodies meet, eyes lock, and the loneliness retreats. But only for a while. That's the trap. The path toward truth often distances you from the world, while the human within you still cries out for warmth, for touch, for belonging. Lust promises that comfort, but delivers emptiness. Because when the moment fades, you're left more alone than before. This is why monks, mystics, and saints across time have quietly battled desire. They left the world to find God and found Him, but they also found unbearable loneliness. And at the door of that loneliness, lust always knocks, offering a false kind of closeness. The third reason is even deeper, almost mystical. When you awaken, you become a disturbance to the powers that keep humanity asleep. Call them darkness, unconsciousness, or temptation. These forces do not want you alert or aware, and they strike where you are weakest. And lust is their most reliable weapon. When desire consumes you, clarity vanishes. Meditation feels impossible. Prayer dries up. The stillness where the divine speaks is drowned out by the noise of craving. You are pulled wholly into the body, into hunger, into fire, into forgetfulness. That's why the battle intensifies as you grow in awareness. Not because you've failed, but because you're succeeding. You're waking up, and the forces of sleep never release their captives without resistance. This is what the mystics called spiritual warfare. It's not merely a metaphor. It's the lived experience of anyone trying to stay conscious in an unconscious world. The conflict is real. The opposition is real. And lust remains one of the most powerful weapons, precisely because it works so devastatingly well. Finally, beneath it all lies the oldest layer, our wounds. Deep, hidden, and ancient. The hurts we've carried since childhood, still shaping how we reach for love, comfort, and escape. From rejection, from betrayal, from all the ways life has hurt us before we even knew what was happening. Most people walk through life never looking at these wounds. They're too painful, too frightening. But when you begin to wake up spiritually, you start seeing them, you start feeling them. All the old pain rises to the surface. The abandonment, the shame, the fear of not being loved, the conviction that you're not enough. And here's what happens. Lust offers to soothe these wounds. It offers a temporary balm. When you're in the grip of desire, when you're pursuing or being pursued, you forget the pain for a while. You feel wanted. You feel alive. You feel like maybe, just maybe, you are enough after all. But it's a lie. Lust doesn't heal wounds. It just covers them up for a moment. Like putting a bandage on a festering sore without cleaning it first. The infection remains and often grows worse because now you've added shame to the wound. Now you've added the knowledge that you're using people or being used or both. Now you've added another layer of pain on top of the original pain. The spiritually awake person sees all of this. They see the wound. They see the lust rising to cover it. They see the shame that follows. They see the whole cycle. And seeing it doesn't make it stop. Sometimes seeing it makes it worse because now you're aware of what you're doing even while you're redoing it. You're conscious of the trap even as you step into it. Healing these old wounds requires something else entirely. It requires facing them, sitting with them, letting them be felt without running away into distraction or comfort or false connection. This issued work, the hardest work there is. And many people, even spiritually awakened people, would rather battle lust than do this deeper work of healing. Because at least lust offers moments of pleasure, however brief. The work of healing offers only pain, at least at first. The fifth reason is the most paradoxical of all. The very gifts that make you spiritually powerful also make you vulnerable. When you have heightened sensitivity, when you can feel the divine presence, when you can sense the interconnection of all things, you're operating at a very high frequency. Your consciousness is expanded. Your awareness is vast, but you're still in a body. You're still flesh and blood. You're still subject to the drives and hungers and needs of the animal self. And here's the strange thing. The higher your consciousness rises, the stronger the pull downward becomes. It's as if the universe seeks balance. As if the very expansion of your spiritual nature creates an equal and opposite pull toward the purely physical. This is why so many spiritual teachers, so many gifted healers and prophets and visionaries have fallen into scandals of the flesh. Not because they were hypocrites, not because their spiritual gifts were fake, but because the combination of high spiritual power and unguarded physical nature creates a dangerous situation, like a tall building without a foundation. The higher it rises, the more catastrophic the fall. The answer this is discipline, but not the grim teeth gritting kind of discipline that feels like punishment, rather the discipline of tending to the whole self, spirit and body, mind and flesh. You cannot just soar in the spiritual realms and ignore the needs of the body. You cannot just pray and meditate and expect the physical naturito take care of itself. The body needs to be honored, fed properly, exercised, given rest, given healthy touch and connection, given creative expression. When these needs are met in healthy ways, lust has less power. When they're ignored or denied, lust becomes overwhelming because it's trying to fill too many holes at once. So what do we do with all of this? How do we live with this strange combination of heightened spiritual awareness and powerful physical desire? First, we stop pretending the battle doesn't exist. We stop acting as if spiritual people are supposed to float above all this earthly messiness. The flesh is real. Desire is real. And fighting a real enemy requires acknowledging it's there. Second, we stop fighting alone. The isolation I spoke of earlier is part of the trap. Lust thrives in secrecy. It grows in darkness. When we can find even one other person to be honest with, someone who won't judge us, but will stand with us, the power of lust begins to break. Not because confession is magic, but because isolation is what feeds the beast. Third, we attend to the wounds. This means sitting with the pain instead of running from it. This means feeling the loneliness instead of medicating it with false connection. This means looking at the old rejections and abandonments and letting them be seen and acknowledged. It's painful work, but it's the only work that actually heals. Fourth, we practice presence with our desire without acting in it. This is perhaps the hardest practice of all. When lust rises, the instinct is to either indulge it or suppress it. Both of these are forms of violence. Indulging it leads to shame and emptiness. Suppressing it leads to explosion later. The middle way is to simply be present with the feeling. To feel the heat of desire without having to do anything about it. To notice how it rises and falls like a wave. To observe it the way you might watch a storm from a safe place. This takes tremendous courage. But it's in this space of presence without action that real transformation happens. Not because you're fighting the desire, but because you're neither fighting it nor feeding it. You're just watching it. And in the watching, something shifts. Finally, we remember that we are not this battle. We are not the desire or the shame or the struggle. We are the awareness within which all of this arises. Like the sky that watches the weather pass through. The storms come and go. The clouds gather and disperse. But the sky remains unchanged. When you can rest in this awareness, even for a moment, the battle loses its power to define you. Yes, lust may still arise. Yes, the struggle may continue, but you're no longer identified with it. You're no longer convinced that this struggle is who you are. The spiritually awake struggle with lust not because they're failing, but because they're awake enough to feel the full force of being human. They're sensitive enough to feel every current, every drive, every hunger. And they're isolated enough to face these things, often without support or understanding. But this struggle, as painful as it is, can become a teacher. It can show us where we're wounded and need healing. It can reveal our need for real human connection, not false substitutes. It can humble us, reminding us that we're not as far above the flesh as we might like to think. And it can deepen our compassion for every other human being struggling with their own desires and weaknesses. The battle with lust is not a sign that you are spiritually failing. It's often a sign that you're spiritually growing into a fuller awareness of what it means to be both spirit and flesh, both divine and animal, both awakened and still very much in the process of learning what that awakening means. So be gentle with yourself. Be honest about the struggle. Seek help when you need it. Attend to your wounds. Practice presence with your desires without being controlled by them. And remember, always remember that you are not alone in this battle. Every mystic, every saint, every truly awakened person has walked this same difficult path. The flesh is weak, yes, but the spirit, when properly attended to, is stronger than any temporary desire. And the awareness that watches both flesh and spirit is stronger.